Alright, so we just got class tuning, and funnily enough, I just recorded a video talking about what I would hope that they change about Brewmaster Monk in these notes. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to publish that now because this post came out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through specifically the Brewmaster stuff. I'm not really going to talk about any of the other tanks. There have been like slight nerfs, like to Vengeance having a slight nerf to parry chance. There were some like Druid damage buffs as well, but I'm specifically going to talk about our Brewmaster Monk here. So what I was saying in the video that I am no longer going to put out is that we more or less need a single target tuning, and the easiest way that Blizzard could address our overall performance in both Mythic Plus and Raid was just to do an aura buff, which they're going to be doing right here. So 3% increase to all ability damage. I was hoping for more of like a 5% increase, but that was just assuming that we weren't going to get anything else alongside of that. They are going to be buffing our tier set as well. So I'm going to talk about basically some implications and why Blizzard are actually making these adjustments. Now, the big reason why I wasn't a big fan of an aura fix is because this puts a lot of value into other abilities like Keg Smash, which keeps things like Shado-pan a little bit more competitive, or it basically both hero counts will now scale up with each other instead of one becoming a little bit stronger. So for example, a lot of players were thinking about swapping to Master of Harmony, but are no longer doing so because of just tuning. And this still comes down to like things like Keg Smash and how Shado-pan's performing. So when you do an aura buff, it still makes that kind of better. Where if they were to target specifically like Blackout Kick or Rising Sun Kick or Tiger Palm, more single target based abilities, it could put more emphasis into the Master of Harmony tree without buffing Shado-pan. So now that we're seeing a 3% increase on all abilities, unfortunately, that is kind of worst case scenario. Now, ultimately, we need a rework, and I'm going to get into that in a couple minutes here. But let's also talk about the increase on the Blackout Kick. This is actually substantial. Now, the reason why this, Brewmaster tier set is kind of down bad right now is that if we come in game, our tier set, our luck of the draw, only lasts for 8 seconds. Most other tanks have it for 10, 12, or even up to 20 seconds in length, like Prot Paladin, for example. So while we have the longest duration on our Fortifying Brew, we get the least amount of damage from our luck of the draw, meaning that our baseline kit gets a shorter duration of a damage increase, which is just like not super great. Blackout Kick getting increased though from 150 to 250 is pretty substantial for not only like Master of Harmony burst damage, but just damage in general on prio targets or 3-target cleave. So I'm hoping that this buff is going to end up being probably closer to like a 4%, between 4 and 5% total buff for Brewmaster in single target. So why did Blizzard make these changes? So coming over here to damage statistics on Warcraft logs, if we go to the 95th percentile, and right now I'm looking at Heroic over the last 2 weeks, you can see that Brewmasters are doing significantly less damage than every other tank. So if I was hoping for like a 5% aura damage buff to at least make us a little bit more competitive with Paladin, because while a curve like this isn't necessarily bad, for tanks it is. When a DPS has this kind of curve, it's not as telling. But when you have a tank doing 30% less damage than the top, from top to bottom, that's going to reflect in the total representation of said class. And so you can't swap this to Mythic if someone's like, oh, well, Heroic has... What I like about looking at Heroic logs is that there's more players partaking in Heroic than there is Mythic. And when you get into Mythic rating, especially early on, you have a lot of people kind of... I don't want to call it fodder re-rolling, but they're going to play whatever their comp or their raid team or their raid leader tells them to play. So if you wanted to play Death Knight Prot Warrior or Prot Warrior with Prot Paladin or Prot Paladin Blood DK, you can do those things, but that'll have a lot of people swapping off of Brewmaster, where Heroic Brewmasters are just going to play Heroic Brewmaster because they're a Brewmaster player. If we swap over to Mythic, the gap between the top, like you're going to see kind of like, top 2 are doing competitive damage. Then you have this kind of like nice little wall here on the 3 middle tanks. And then you have this giant jump down to Brewmaster Monk. And this is what has been really frustrating me about Raid specifically. Brewmaster's always been like the glass cannon tank. So when you're able to go in and just do a lot of damage and Brewmaster's competitive with the top, it feels very good. Unfortunately, Brewmaster being this low has just been very obnoxious. Like, for example, last night I was progressing Styx Bunk Junker on Mythic with a Blood DK who is like 12 item levels beneath me, and he was ripping threat just by popping his cooldowns. And that is unbelievably frustrating. For those who like look at this graph and you're like, well, I don't know how much damage they're doing, we can take a look over at Archon. We're in currently Raid, we're in Mythic difficulty, and we are looking at their throughput. Brewmasters are doing roughly 150k DPS less than prop paladins, which are doing another 150k less than VDHs and obviously the other tanks. This disparity is massive. The top tank should not be doing 40% more damage or 30% more damage than the bottom tank. I just don't think there's ever a world this should be in. Unfortunately, I don't think these buffs are going to be enough to bring us up to where like VDH is. It's going to bring us up maybe to where prop paladin is, which is still a little discouraging. I was hoping for a little bit more on this. I'm going to take the buffs because they're buffs, but I'm not like excited for this. Last but not least, we can look at Mythic Plus representation. Brewmasters, per usual, are real down bad. Right now, we're looking at Mythic plus 11. If we go to like 10s and 11s, you're going to see a 4% representation compared to Demon Hunter and Prop Paladin being at 34 and 25% respectively. You also have a lot of BDKs and Prot Warriors playing right now. Guardian Druid just isn't as popular as a tank because it's just a little bit more bland. As you get into higher and higher keys, let's go to 13 and up, you're going to see Brewmaster actually starts to tank significantly. And then this changes even more when you get into 14s and up, all the way up to 15s and up. I mean, it's staying at 2.8% because it's the same couple of players. Guardian Druid's actually dropping more than that, but Vengeance seems to be the meta tank at the moment. The problem that I have with Brewmaster and their damage profile right now is not that their damage is necessarily like bad, but it's that we are a glass cannon. And what that means is that we take more damage and we're going to be stressed for a significant longer period of time. We have to make more defensive choices in our rotation and in our talent choices that other tanks don't have to really think about. Specific tank busters, what packs you can pull, how large you can pull. These are all things that we have to take into account. And that's why when you play with a Brewmaster player and they're not pulling what a BDK would or a Prot Warrior will or a Prot Paladin or basically any other tank, it's because they cannot live those larger pulls like other classes can. So I think because of that, and this is just maybe my opinion on how the class design should work, is if you are going to be stressed out for taking a lot of damage, you should also be able to do a lot of damage. So I do think that Prot Warriors, or sorry, not Prot Warriors, I do think that Brewmasters should be a little bit more or better compensated for our stress, I guess, is essentially what it's coming down to. So are these buffs good? Yeah, I mean, they're buffs. I can't really complain, but I'm going to because Brewmaster needs a rework. So this upcoming Tuesday, which will be March 25th, we are going to see a 3% buff across the board, as well as an increase. This won't change anything. This won't change anything we're playing. It adds a little more value into Overwhelming Force within Master of Harmony, but I don't think this is going to change what people are currently playing or opting for. So yeah, the last thing I'd like to kind of mention is just Blizzard. I doubt anyone is listening, but if you happen to be listening for some reason, we need a rework. We need a talent tree rework very badly. Most of the tanks, if not all of them, have had a spec tree rework. And while we've had a class tree rework, outside of like PTA being introduced back in Dragonflight, we've had almost nothing. I mean, Oxdance was, I guess, kind of cool, but this is so nuanced and niche that no one actually really ever plays Oxdance in like any situation outside of like, again, very nuanced. Things that we need to reduce if Blizzard was going to rework anything. Reduce the amount of multiplier hoops we have to jump through in single target specifically that allow us to do damage. Blackout combo, Counter Strike, and Tiger Palm increase Facepalm increase the damage of Tiger Palm by almost, if not more than 400%. There should never be a 400% stacking multiplier on a single ability that we're also praying crits. So it's like get Blackout combo up, have a Counter Strike proc, Tiger Palm, hope it Facepalm procs into a crit. There are 5 hoops that you have to jump through to do good single target damage. Double the value of Tiger Palm and cut these talents in half. I don't think that's like super complicated. Incorporate Jadefire Stomp back into the kits. Windwalker and Mistweavers have it. It's a cool ability that they had back in Shadowlands. It's fairly thematic. I believe it gave us like Heg Smash resets and stuff. Basically allow us, rework our tree. Fix the modifier hoops we have to jump through to make our damage more consistent, and I think Brewmaster players will be generally happy. I've already done a video going over everything I would like for Blizzard to add, or I would like to see personally get added or removed from this tree, whether it's like removal of talents like Celestial Flame, Staggering Strikes, Black Ox Adept, all the way to like new talents or new legendaries or old tier sets that should be added. Anyways, Brewmasters are getting a buff. This is exciting news, but it's Also, always going to leave a bad taste in our mouth that we don't get reworks. Of course, I know that they're not going to rework us on a random like patch, like a tuning pass day. If we get a rework, eventually it's going to be on a half patch or full patch, but I'm hoping for more changes soon. Anyways, if you'd like to watch me push keys on stream and be miserable playing Brewmaster, go check me out. Link is in the description below. Anyways, I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.